being good at the thing does not mean I'll make $1 from it. Not one single dollar. Those are two totally different skills. I met my last client at a Starbucks at a table with a wobbly leg, and now I'm here. Took my price and I quadrupled it, and I threw out the number. Something in me just decides, not today, motherfucker. And then she asked the question that almost ended everything before it even started. She said to me, "20 years ago, in a penthouse in Los Angeles, I looked a woman dead in the eye and lied to her face. And that lie built everything I have today." Hi, friend. I'm Cynthia Garcia, and this is I'd Like to Thank Myself. Okay, so let me take you back. 20 years ago, I'm living here in LA. I've been through this whole health crisis where I was kind of falling apart. I had gained weight, had cystic acne on my face, my neck, my hair was breaking and falling out. And no doctor, therapist, nutritionist, trainer, you name it, could figure out what was wrong with me. And I went to everybody, and nobody had any answers. So I decided that I'd figure it out myself. I mean, listen, I had to. There wasn't really another option. I realized that, nobody was coming to save me, which, if I think about it, has kind of been the whole pattern of my life, like from the creek in the Appalachian Mountains to right now. Nobody has ever come to save me. I've had to figure it out every single time. So I decided I'd figure it out. I became a nutritionist. I got my certification. I put it on 3 maxed out credit cards because I didn't have enough of a limit on one. And I talk about this whole journey back in episode 1. So if you're interested, you can go back and watch that episode. But long story short, I took matters into my own hands, got educated, and what I was figuring out actually started working for me, like really working. My health changed, my body changed, my skin changed, and people started to notice. Friends kept saying, "What are you doing?" Because they could see it. They could see the transformation on me. And then I started to help other people who saw my transformation and said, "Can you help me?" And I said, "Yes, I can." And I was good at it. Like I was actually really good. I knew my shit. But here's what nobody told me. Nobody told me that being good at the thing does not mean I'll make $1 from it. Not one single dollar. Those are two totally different skills. Now, remember, I'm in LA, and if you know LA, you know that you can throw a rock and hit a nutritionist. Now, some of them had better credentials than I did. Some of them had more experience. Some of them had, fancy offices with a nice lady out front. And I'm over here taking clients at Starbucks and just hoping that they don't see the guy next to me having a full meltdown on a conference call, right? So I think I have to figure this out. I have to make money. I've got bills to pay. So I do the only thing I can think of. I decide to be cheaper. I don't know. But the problem was I didn't know what their prices were, these other nutritionists. And they weren't listed on their websites. We barely had websites back then, let's be honest. But I knew if I could just get people working with me that I'd get them results and they'd tell their friends and I'd be off and running. So I thought, okay, let me figure out how much they make. And I did the only reasonable thing that a person would do. I called them up and I pretended to be a potential client. I did this. I swear to God. I'm looking for nutritionists. I'm just wondering what you charge. Just straight up calling them, lying, finding out their prices. I know, future CEO behavior. And then once they told me, I wrote it all down. I charged less. Now, spoiler alert, it didn't work, right? People just assumed that I wasn't any good. So then I thought, all right, I'm going to charge more than everybody else, right? I'm going to stand out. I'm going to get the big bucks while these people, they can have their little rates. It didn't work either. Nobody knew who I was. I was competing on price, credentials, experience. I was competing against people who had more of all of those things. And I was losing. So I lowered my price again, put my tail between my legs, did it very quietly. And I was ready to give up. I really was. And I remember sitting in my little apartment thinking, this is it. I can't crack it. I might as well hang it up. And then my friend Todd called. Now, Todd was a personal trainer, good guy, still is. And he calls me one day and he says, "Hey, I've been telling one of my clients your story. You know, what you went through with your health and how you figured it out when nobody else could. And she's going through the same thing right now. She wants to meet you." Now, pay attention to that. He didn't say, "I told her your credentials. I listed off your certifications." He said he told her my story about my transformation, what happened to me, and how I came out on the other side. So he said, "Can you come meet her?" And I said, "I'm on my way," right? Because broke is a joke and I will be right there. Hold, please. Now, I need you to picture what happened next, because the next 45 minutes changed the entire trajectory of my life. And I had no idea while it was even happening. This is a true story, all right? So go with me. So I go to my car and I get in and I pull up to this building on Wilshire. Now, it is a high rise, not like a nice apartment building. This is the kind of building where somebody opens the door for you when you arrive. A concierge in a uniform opens the door. He walks me through the lobby. He escorts me to the elevator. He gets in the elevator, pushes the button, and we go up and up and up. And finally, we stop and the elevator opens. And I think, okay, we'll walk down the hall and knock on a door. No. The elevator opens directly into her apartment because her apartment is the entire floor. Now, I walk out and I am standing in this space trying to not look like I've never been anywhere like this before, even though I haven't. There is art on the walls that probably costs more than everything I own. And there is this view of Los Angeles. And I mean, it was breathtaking. Like, it was truly, the meaning of the word breathtaking. It was just so beautiful. And everything is immaculate. Everything is intentional. And I'm standing here thinking, I met my last client at a Starbucks at a table with a wobbly leg. And now I'm here. But here's the thing about growing up the way I grew up. When you came from nothing, when you bathed in a creek and wore clothes from the dumpsters, you learned to read a room real fast, because reading rooms is how you survive. It's how you figure out who's safe and, well, who isn't. Now, I've been reading rooms since I was old enough to stand up without wobbling. So I read this one. And I don't do what most nutritionists would do. I don't pull out a binder. I don't list my certifications. I don't talk about macros or meal plans. I just talked to her. I asked her about her story. I told her mine. I told her what happened to me and how sick I was and how no one could figure it out. And then I told her about how I figured it out myself and what I know now. And she listens. And when I'm done, she looks at me and says, "I want to work with you." Not because of my credentials or my price, because she heard what I had been through and she thought, if this woman figured it out for herself, she can figure it out for me. I was the proof. I was standing right there in front of her. I was what she was buying. And then she asked the question that almost ended everything before it even started. She said to me, "Where's your office?" Yeah, I don't have an office, right? But I wasn't going to tell her that. I was not going to tell her that. This was a huge opportunity and I had enough sense to know it. And in that moment, something in me shifted. The same survival instinct that made me tell Amanda back in high school that one day I'd have so many bathrooms it would take me 10 minutes just to pick one, that instinct, I don't know where it comes from. I don't. But in certain moments, when the stakes are high, something in me just decides, not today, motherfucker. And then I open my mouth and shit comes out that I didn't plan. And somehow it's exactly right. So I looked at her and said, I don't work that way. And she said, "Well, how do you work?" And standing right there in her penthouse, surrounded by art that I can't even afford to look at, I said to her, Well, I come to you. I come to your home so I can see your supplements, your fridge, your food, your workouts, what you're doing, how you're living, because I'm a holistic nutritionist. I need to see the whole picture. Fucking no. I am making this shit up. I'm making it up as I go. So she looks at me and she goes, "Oh my God, that's brilliant." I'm like, "Yeah." Very established. Been doing this for so long. So then she says, "Well, does that cost extra or is that included?" And I said, "No, it's included. It's all included." And she said, "Great. What's your rate?" This is the moment. This is the lie or the truth, depending on how you looked at it. I looked around that apartment, the art, the view, the concierge who opened the door for me and escorted me up. And I knew that if I told her what I'd been charging, she would not take me seriously. Not because the number was wrong, but because the number would tell her that I did not play in her world. But I knew I was good at what I did. So I took my price and I quadrupled it. I 4X'd it right on the spot and I threw out the number. And she said, "Great. Can we start tomorrow?" "Yes, ma'am, we can. I'll spend the night in this bitch. I don't care. We can start right now. I am so ready." So that night, Todd calls me, right? And he goes, "That was awesome. I didn't know you did that." And in my head, I'm thinking, "Fucking, I didn't either." I didn't either. I guess I do. And then he says the thing that changed everything. He said to me, "I can refer you to other people, but that thing that you do where you go to people, what do you call that? What do I say that you do?" And I think about it real quick, right? And I flash back to walking into that building. I remember the man in the uniform, the door being held open, being escorted up like I was somebody. And immediately I said, I call it concierge nutrition. That's what I said. Now, I knew nobody else was using this because I just made that shit up, right? Now, here's what happened next. And this is the part that matters more than any of it. When this woman told her friends about me, she didn't say, "I hired a nutritionist." She said, "I hired a concierge nutritionist." And every single one of them said the same thing. "What's that?" I want that too. Not how much does she charge, not what are her credentials, not is she better than so-and-so. That's what I want too. I couldn't believe it. There was nobody to compare me to. I was the only concierge nutritionist in the world. What? Fucking amazing. I had created something that didn't exist. And because Todd had told her my story, because she could see my transformation, because she could see that I was the living proof that what I did actually worked, she didn't need a sales page or a funnel. She didn't need testimonials. She needed me. So I went from being ready to quit to fully booked. Not because I got better at nutrition in those few minutes I was with her, but because I stopped playing somebody else's game and I started being proof of my own transformation. I became a living brand. Okay, if that was just a lucky break, a good instinct, a one-time thing, that'd be a nice story for a dinner party, right? Like you could see somebody telling that at a dinner party. But here is where it gets really interesting. Because I didn't just do that once. No. I did it 5 more times. I swear to God, 5 more times. And every single time, the same 2 things happened. I was the living proof, and I created something that nobody else had. So let me tell you about these 5 times. First, there was a company called SoCal Cleanse. This is a company that I created. You see, the very first thing I did was to heal my own body and to get healthy again was a cleanse. I knew that before anything else, I needed to reset my system so that whatever else I put into it after that, vitamins, supplements, whatever, would work right. And after I did it, it changed everything. That was my first real boost for my health. And I noticed as I did this cleanse, I was looking around at what was on the market, and I couldn't understand why none of these detoxes were organic. Like, why are you detoxing with products full of toxic ingredients? It made no sense to me. So I created SoCal Cleanse. It was the world's first and only USDA certified organic cleanse, SoCal for Southern California. It was the first hemp detox protein powder, and here's what nobody else was doing. I created an internal and an external component. Charcoal body wash and soaps on the outside pulling toxins from your skin, teas, hemp protein, and then capsules working on the inside. Nobody had done both. The press called it Hollywood's hottest diet. Celebrities started using it, it ended up at Whole Foods, and eventually I sold the company. But why did it work? Why? Because I had done the cleanse. My body was the proof. So when people looked at me, they could see what happened when you actually reset your system properly. I wasn't selling a product. I was selling what the product did for me. And I created a category that nobody else was in. Same pattern, living proof, category of one. Then comes Pink Method. And this book, it fully documented my entire transformation. It was a book and a complete DVD set, which nobody had done together like that before. Dr. Phil's son published it. It sold over 1 million copies. I was on the Today Show, the Dr. Phil Show. Yahoo named it the most searched diet of the year. And the reason it blew up was because I was the before and after. My body, my journey, my transformation was the entire marketing strategy. And remember, now I have a ton of other people that I'd helped with it as well. People could see what happened. They wanted what I had. I was the proof. But Pink Method almost killed me. That's a true story. And I need to be honest about that because Pink Method was me. I was the product so completely that there was no separation. Every appearance, every shoot, every event required me to physically be there. Now, by this point, I had a new baby, and also my marriage was falling apart. As a matter of fact, my daughter's dad told me that I couldn't be married to anyone because I was already married to my work, which sounds really shitty, but he was right. I was sneaking off during infomercial shoots to nurse Rain. Hold on, okay, we're good. What were we filming? My mental health was spiraling. I was on TMZ and then Newsweek put my book on their cover. Pink Method was proof that being the living proof works, but it was also proof to me that if the thing can't run without you, it'll consume you. So I walked away. I stopped everything, which is the whole story that I told back in episode 1. So you can go watch that to get the full scoop. But I wasn't ready to just give up. I just needed a break. And after some time, I realized that I just needed to do things a little bit differently, right? So I came back and I didn't just start over. I took what I had learned, what I had lived, and I turned it into something bigger than me. See, I had gone through this entire health transformation. I figured out that nutrition isn't just about food. It's about what you're really hungry for, right? It's the science, the psychology, the spirituality of it. I had lived all of that. I was proof of all of that. And I couldn't help everyone one-on-one. That was the lesson Pink Method taught me. And writing a book still wasn't enough. So instead of seeing more clients or writing more books, I decided I would certify other people to do what I did so they could go out and do the work with clients. But I didn't call it health coaching. That's what everybody was doing. I called it transformational nutrition. Yeah, I know I'm getting good at this, right? It's a whole new methodology, a whole new category. Nobody was combining the science, the psychology, and the spirituality of what people are really hungry for, not in a whole coaching model that was turnkey. I did that though, and I named it. And then I made $50 million over the next 16 years. Tens of thousands of coaches were certified worldwide, and it scaled without me having to be in the room because the methodology was the product. The category was the product. I built it so it could run whether I showed up on Tuesday or not. But the reason people enrolled, it was because they could see my life. They could see what this methodology had done for me. They could see the business I had built, the freedom I had, the health I had maintained, and they wanted that. I was living proof, once again, that this works. Same pattern over and over, right? Then comes the certification model. And this story is the concierge moment all over again 20 years later. All right, so here we go. I'm speaking at a women's event, and I share how I built my certification programs. By this time, I'd built 2. Didn't just build another life coach certification, by the way. I built an identity-based coaching program. Again, I named it. It's mine. I own it. It's the only place you can get it. So I shared how I built my certification programs in front of these women. I just walked them through it, 35, 40 minutes. I said, here's what I did. Here's what you can do. And if you want, I can help. And they say how much, and I throw out a number that feels right. And one woman says, I'm in. Another woman says, I'm in. Another woman says, me too. $250,000 in 1 hour. Girl, I know. Me. Like I was trying to undercut every nutritionist in Los Angeles. And now here I am making $250,000 in an hour. No sales page, no funnel, no program name. That this thing didn't even have a name. I'd just been calling it the certification model because that was the model. It was a certification business model. I know. It's real original. That's what it was. That's what I was teaching. I figured I could give it a better name later, but now, well, I guess it's stuck, right? I just made it up, just like when I was in the Penthouse. But why did these women hand over $25,000 each without ever seeing the curriculum? Because they'd been watching me for years, 15 years of running 2 successful certification schools. They could see the life I'd built, the freedom, the wealth. I didn't have to work in the business every single day. And they wanted that. I was living proof that certifications create wealth and freedom. They didn't need a sales page. They needed proximity to someone who had done it. They knew I could help them get the results. And I did. And now I'm doing this once again with Rewritten Beauty. Now listen. If you know anything about me, if you watched any of my other videos or you follow me on the social medias, you know that I have always treated my skincare like an Olympic sport. Always. I mean, I am obsessed. I don't even apologize for it. And for years, people who knew me knew that about me. I'd be on trainings, teaching business strategy, and women would be in the chat saying, this is so helpful. This is amazing. What shade of lip gloss is that? What skincare do you use? And I'd be like, ma'am, excuse me. I am trying to teach you how to make some money. I'm trying to teach you about business. We're not talking about lip gloss right now. And it was annoying to me a little bit, I'm not going to lie, because I had this story. I had this story that I had picked up since I was a little thing, that you couldn't be smart and pretty at the same time. I thought if I want people to take me seriously in business, I've got to hide the beauty stuff. I got to be brains first, right? And I did. I hid it for years. That whole part of me, gone, off limits. And then I turned 40 and started getting birthday messages that felt like obituaries. I swear to God. People said to me, get ready to become invisible. They said, it's all downhill from here. I swear to God, text messages. One woman, she sent me a message and said, good luck being invisible. I was like, what the fuck? Ma'am, what? So I responded to her, ha ha ha, that's not going to happen to me. She immediately wrote back. And you know what she said to me? She said, that's what we all said. I thought, you know what? Fuck that. I'm going to do the opposite. I decided in that moment, I was going to build a skincare company. 40 years old. I'm going to take everything I've been hiding, the thing people have been asking me for years, and I'm going to turn this into a business. I didn't just create another anti-aging skincare line. That's what everybody does. I created identity-based beauty. I know, I just keep making shit up. But here's the thing. I created that because we're not just rewriting the signs of aging at the cellular level using ingredients that work and that have been studied. We're doing that, but we're not just doing that. We're also rewriting the stories that women have been told about what it means to get older. We are shifting their identity, and it's working. Now, remember, I had no experience in beauty, no connections, no contacts in that industry at all. I just spent 8 years of research and development time because I won't just put anything on my face if it's not the best. So 8 years, we researched, we developed, we studied, we tested, we proved this. And then I launched it. And do you know what happened? It sold out in 48 hours. What? I know. No experience, no new audience, same thing, right? And people said to me, of course you did this. Of course you did, right? Of course you did. Because they'd been watching me. They had seen my skin. They saw how I take care of myself. And they knew that I wouldn't create anything that I wouldn't use myself. I was the proof. Again, same pattern 6 times. Now, here's the part where it really gets wild. Because as my team and I were building out Undeniable, the program where I teach all of this, right? I teach it live with 20 women in a small closed container. I thought, I've done this many times over the years. I have this framework. I try it out. It works like crazy. So I thought, let me apply this same framework to the one thing that I've never really put a lot of effort on. Social media. It's true. Listen, I had less than 40,000 followers for most of my career, and I built over $100 million in businesses with those 40,000 Instagram followers that I barely even posted to. I mean, there were months and I didn't show up at all. I don't even know why those poor people followed me. I was a terrible person to follow. But social media matters to a lot of people, and I've actually started enjoying it, by the way. So I thought, all right, let me use the same exact framework. Let me get clear on my identity, become a living brand, and create a category of one. Let me do that. So I did. I showed up as myself. I told the truth about what it actually takes to stay hot at 48. I talked about what nobody else was willing to talk about, right? Now, I didn't try to be a social media expert. I didn't use frameworks or download some PDFs or have somebody teach me a formula. It was just me showing up as proof of what I was living. And the 3rd episode of my YouTube show went viral. It's at 18,000 views as of this recording. I have 7,300 new followers on Instagram and TikTok in less than 3 weeks, 1,500 new subscribers on YouTube. I had viral content on every single platform in the same week. I know, it's pretty cool. Not because I learned a social media strategy, because the same thing that worked in that penthouse 20 years ago still works today. When you're the proof and you create something that nobody else has, people can't look away. All right, so here's the question. Did I actually lie to her? Or was I just quick on my feet, a survivor? I told that woman I came to her because I wanted to see the whole picture, right? I would come to you. I can see the supplements. I can do this. And do you know that turned out to be true? Turns out going to someone's home and seeing how they live and looking at their actual refrigerator, it's actually a way better way to practice nutrition than bringing them into an office and hoping they can remember everything and tell you. I stumbled into a better model by accident because I was too broke to have an office. I quadrupled my price because I was terrified she would think I was not good enough. But she took me more seriously because of it. And I showed up differently because of it. I thought, she's paying me good money. I got to bring my A game. And the crazy thing was, she showed up differently. Listen, she was investing a lot of money, and you better believe she did the work to get the results, right? I had no idea that's what was going to happen. I called it Concierge Nutrition because a man in a uniform opened a door and walked me to an elevator. But that name changed how people experienced working with me before we even started. In every business after that, I didn't sit down with a whiteboard or a business plan. I didn't have a mentor who taught me this. I didn't read it in a book. I just kept doing the same thing over and over, living the transformation, being the proof, and creating a category that nobody else had. So-called cleanse, I was the cleanest person in the room. Pink method, I was the before and after. Transformational nutrition, I was the proof that it creates freedom. The certification model, I was the proof that certifications build wealth with ease without burning out. Rewritten beauty, I am the proof you don't have to become invisible as you age. Every time, same thing, same audacity, same process. So, was it a lie, what I told that woman in the penthouse? Or was it the truest thing I ever said before I had the evidence to back it up? You see, I think that's what this is really about. Not lying, not faking it, but telling the truth about who you're becoming before the world has caught up. I did it as a girl in Appalachia, promising another girl that one day I'd have so many bathrooms it would take me 10 minutes to pick one. I did it in a penthouse on Wilshire, making up a career on the spot. And I'm doing it right now with Rewritten Beauty, showing up as the founder of a company that changes women's lives because it gives them permission to refuse to become invisible long before we've grown to what I know it will. And as I shared, I'm doing it again on social media. Same framework, same pattern, and the receipts are already coming in. So what about you? What is your concierge nutrition moment? What room are you standing in right now where you're about to undersell yourself because you don't think you have enough? Enough credentials, enough followers, enough experience, enough proof? What if the proof is already you? What you've lived, what you've been through, what you've figured out when nobody else could figure it out for you? What if you don't need more proof? What if you just need more nerve? Drop it in the comments. Start with, I'd like to thank myself for. I want to hear about the time that you bet on yourself long before you were ready. Help me feel not alone, right? Tell me I'm not the only one that's done crazy shit like this. Tell me, right? So, a toast. I'd like to thank myself for lying to a woman in a penthouse, for quadrupling my price when I had no business doing that, for saying concierge nutrition like I'd been doing it for years when I made it up about 10 seconds earlier. I'd like to thank myself for calling every nutritionist in LA, pretending to be someone else because I couldn't quite figure out how to be myself yet. I'd like to thank myself for putting a certification on 3 credit cards, for building a nutrition cleanse in my kitchen, for writing a book that blew up, and then for walking away from it when it started to cost me everything. I'd like to thank myself for coming back, for building again, for certifying other people to do what I couldn't do alone, for standing up at a women's event and selling something that didn't even have a name yet. I'd like to thank myself for finally letting people see the beauty side of me, for refusing to disappear at 40, for building a skincare company with no experience and no connections and no permission from anyone. And I'd like to thank myself for every single time something inside me said, "Not today, motherfucker," and then opened my mouth and figured it out on the spot. To who we were, to who we are, and to the icons we're becoming. For that and so much more, I'd like to thank myself. Cheers.